Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about movement and let's start with the definition.
It was a time in ancient times when people were walking by their legs or maybe using some very easy-made boats. But now we have a lot of way how to move around. It is bikes, it is bicycles, it is cars, it is steam power and planes and so other. And now we should understand that there are a lot of threats which is going from our movement. For example, you are making choice to use the car, to use the bus, or to use the plane. If it is, for example, 1 hour trip, it is not worth to use a plane because it is gives a very dangerous CO2 track. If you are using, for example, a car, you use it by yourself and you have MP3 seats. So also petroleum, which is very expensive and not невозобновляемый, not non
Unreplenishable.
unreplenishable. So probably better to use a bus. But people who have the money, they always use planes, helicopters, and so on, and they use it by themselves and also maybe with pilot and with drivers. And we should teach people in all cases use cars which is full with people, or use train, or use bus and other way of transportation to share this damage what would be done to the environment.
And from the first approach, probably the skill of the movement might be sound slightly ambiguous. So what might be the difference between the logistic transportation or maybe even the lean use of the resources or maybe the optimal use of the resources?
Maxim, it is very funny, but you are the only person who are well suitable to this question, because you already write several articles about algorithms. When we talk about logistics, this is also about wait time and refilling time and so on. I was trying for several times to go around the globe. It was clockwise and in another directions and through the policy
Polars.
through the polars. And it was not easy because to visit some islands you should wait like 2 weeks, and if the weather is miserable, you are not allowed to step on the boat, and it will go without any passengers. So it was a very tricky situation, and for first round trip I was spending maybe more than 7 months. And after this time I realized how hard to move through this globe. Usually people go from town to town, and this is huge cities and maybe huge kurorts and maybe island which is touristically inhabited. But if you are going for some job, for example, in Africa or in some Micronesia, you will find that, for example, to move through, I don't know, 3 kilometers, you should use like 5 vehicles. For example, I was flying, I couldn't remember exactly to which island. It was close to England. The range of the flight was 2.8 kilometers, but to this island there were no steam, yes?
Steamboat.
Steamboat. Yes, okay. So everyone was flying. By the way, if we will look in the face of truth, we will find that maybe the largest amount of seaplane belongs to the Maldives, this country which 99% is under the water, and to fly from one island to another, you should use small 12-seat seaplanes.
And I can't help but ask a pun intended question. What are the moving parts of the skill of the movement?
It sound funny. First, you should understand that everything has a cost. For example, when you use your muscles and you are driving with bicycle, it is good for you and good for environment. But you couldn't use it when you are traveling with your family. You should use, for example, car. And when you use car, you should go in a very optimal regime. All engines in cars are made to drive slowly, like 60 or 65 miles per hour. If you will go faster, you will spend much more petroleum. It will be expensive, and it would be too damaging to the environment. When you are using, for example, plane, you should understand that better to divide this plane with other people. It was time when I was flying for Alpha Bank and for other companies, and it was very often I was just alone in the huge plane, and it was from one side it was funny, but from another it was the same amount of fuel.
And when it comes to the movement, obviously different people might be moving like in a different routes, or maybe in a different like a teams by themselves, or with the families, or the friends, or colleagues, or like as the big companies. So what might be the levels in order to efficiently move from A to B?
You know, when you are living in a huge town like Moscow, like New York, like, for example, Istanbul or Tokyo, it is better to use subway because it is going smoothly and it is easier to reach any place. If you are, for example, living in Dubai, you have no chances to move by metro. By the way, the in subway in Dubai, it is goes above the ground, and it is also has a very first wagon which is called a golden class. You are sitting there like in a plane. It's very fancy. When you are, for example, going to some special places like school or maybe to your home or from the work, you could use school bus or your planned bus. But if you are using your own car to drive every day, it is not expensive just for you, but it is expensive also for your neighborhood and for the planet.
And what might be the mistakes which people make when they're trying to move to one another place? Maybe it's related to the way they move, or maybe it's related to the optimal routes that they take, or maybe different transportations they have, or maybe the time they spend in order to even to do the preparation for the such events.
You are from Siberia and you will understand me and maybe you will help me to translate. It is very funny, but when you will be in Tomsk or Omsk or Novosibirsk, you will find that people, especially at the mid of the winter, they will put their car with switch on engines for whole night, because if you will switch it off, you could not switch it on early at the morning. So all the nights, a lot of cars are rumbling, and it is very unusual to see on the parking lot. Second, a lot of people use car in wrong way. For example, they are trying to recharge their phones and so on, but they change petroleum, which are very limited amounts on the planet, for batteries which could be refilled with some other source of energy. And last one, people also, when move somewhere, they trying to have as many luxuries they have, and sometimes they use in their багажник,
Trunk.
in trunk, a lot of unnecessary things. You know, it is very funny. But if, for example, you will put something like your old boots or your some, I don't know, some clothes for 1 kilo, and you will drive in the trunk for 1 year, you will spend, I don't know, maybe full tank of your car, and it is very expensive. But people don't want to take anything from trunk, and they think maybe I will need it someday.
So I guess it's more about like being aware of the compound effect, that like everything is just has this like accumulation, and you need to look into the things like in a very long way rather than thinking like in days or hours. But what is the future of the movement, given that there is a development of the technology? Probably, like soon we might be seeing the drones flying, or as far as I remember, when I was a kid, there was a magazine called in Russia it's called Modelist Constructor. So they were talking about pneumopost, like you have a tubes and you actually can move certain items on. And I was thinking, why can't you move people exactly the same way? Because you just need to have the same capsule. But what are the future of the giving the development of the technologies and the trends? What might be the future of the movement?
Uh, I am a son of the military man, so I was often using military planes and helicopters. I was falling with parachutes and so on. When I was living in Ukraine, close to the Dnieper River, there were very fast-moving boats on, I don't know, underwater wings. It is called Meteor. It was a very fast one with plane engines. When I was last time in Los Angeles, I heard that there would be soon some pipes under the ground, which would be very familiar with pneumopost. It's called Hyperloop and so on. But when I trying to imagine how to move in this pipe with no winds, no windows, it's make me frightening. By the way, now I take part in the project. In this project, we build a plane without any illuminators. Illuminators would be made with screens like iPads, so you will see not exactly what is going around the plane, but we will see some nice pictures which is not relevant to the time and to the place you live on.
And I do believe it's probably also have like some sort of like a constructive justification in order to do it this way. My last question will be how knowing about movement would help to make this world a better place.
We should understand that our planet is too small and we have very limited resources in oil and other ископаемые
resources or commodities.
So we should find another way how to move. For example, when I was in China, I saw on the exhibition a car which could move by the water. I could remember maybe for 1,000 kilometers with 50 liters of water, and I was completely amused. And when I was in Dubai for very last time, I was also moved by a drone from my helipad to the logimira hotel, and my baggage was flying on another drone, and it was very funny. So two drones were used to drop me in my hotel. And I don't know, from one point of view, it was like a future, but from other point, it is a bit dangerous. When you're using a car, for example, I don't know, Lincoln or I don't know, Bugatti, it is fast and not dangerous. But when you're flying and without any pilot close to you, it is very dangerous. But I think it would be in the nearest future. I never draw, but I have seen Tesla, and even one pupil of School of Troubleshooters, he sell Tesla in Belarus, and he drove this Tesla with 600 horsepower close to the clinic, and everyone was thinking, is it is worth to go on? But everyone was afraid. But cars without pilot and drones, it will be used, I don't know, maybe in 5 or 10 years on all places.
Легко переместить себя из А в Б, но всегда соразмеряйте ресурсы, которые вы на это потратили, с тем, что вы в итоге сделаете со своим быстрым появлением вместе. А мы рассмотрели навык передвижения, чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!